All right, jamming from Prague, moving on to track two. And Brett, this one came from you. This is Good to See. I want to throw it to you first, but also want to acknowledge the different spelling of see, Good to See with SEA, because it plays into the video that you chose as well there. So over to you on Good to See.
Yeah, right from the opening, I love that they start with this like crashing sound. There's something that like disturbs the audioscape right away, and then it goes into the song. So the song to me feels like it's a statement, and it's a statement about having two ideas simultaneously in your mind. And the sort of, I'm definitely, maybe my word of the year so far is paradox, because everything seems to be pointing to paradoxes. And yeah, the video, since you mentioned it, I think is awesome. It's labeled their official video, so I'll believe that. But it's this ship out at very, very rough sea, and it is like, just watching that ship go, it is like, wow, this is definitely, I think it lines up well with the notion of holding two ideas that seem to be contradictory, but you could believe them both. And that sort of the internal sea of the brain getting just tossed around, with different ideas simultaneously. It can be hard. It can be hard to hold paradox. I think that's part of the work that we do as humans is hold two ideas simultaneously, and that's where impossible things become possible. So I really love that. From a sonic level, I really, really dig the moment when the drum set breaks out into, I think, a syncopated beat. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but it's at 1 minute and 11 seconds. And it's right at the end of the second stanza, or the beginning of the second chorus. And the line is, there seemed to be no other side for the two ideas to meet. And I love that there's a sonic response to that idea, because he's singing stuff like, it's good to see you, it's good to see you go. And the lyrics that are written out are SEE, but I don't necessarily trust that that's what they intended. I don't know that they maybe ever wrote them down. I'm curious to look in the liner notes to see what they would have produced, because online it always is written as SEE. But as you mentioned, Grant, Good to See, the title is SEA. And so Good to See You and Good to See You Go is like, okay, well, if I'm talking about thoughts, then it's good to see this thought come in, and it's actually like, it's good to see that thought go away. And it's like, meditation is this process of like, oh, welcoming whatever is going on, and then welcoming it to leave, and kind of no attachment, this sort of like Zen notion of not getting attached to any number of thinkings or beliefs, or what we think is true or what we think is right. I really love all of those pieces, but especially I picked this song because of that syncopated beat that happens right after he says no other side for two ideas to meet. And it's awesome that he then separates them out. And I like that, because in my mind, when I'm in a state of paradox where two ideas are holding true, it's too easy to conflate them and start to think that they're one idea. But it's so helpful when I can look at both of them side by side and have them kind of interact with each other in syncopated beat. So I love the sonic representation of that they put together. Yeah, excited about hearing what you guys think about Good to See and how it strikes you.
Yeah, Sean, we'll go to you on Good to See and how it landed with you.
Well, I've never noticed that lyrical representation of kind of how it matches the soundscape. So thanks for pointing that out, Brett. I'd like to go back and listen to that particular part. This song was supremely listenable for me. It's got all the musical things I like about Pinback. It, like the little beeping guitars in the intro, the typical driving riffs. But this one had, I think, the additional upside of kind of the infectious, upbeat, head bobbing groove. It was really easy to listen to, and kind of a little bit like danceable, more danceable, I guess. Some of the other songs are like, I think, make your body move, but not in the same way that this one does, I guess. And in this case, the lyrics were a lot more thought-provoking and artful than I think I realized. So what the project did for me is it took me out of my normal Pinback listening mode, which is just jam to the song. And it had me look more deeply at them, look at the lyrics, think about what it means. I just didn't catch the paradox that you had mentioned. But I did catch the juxtaposition of good to see you and then good to see you go, and how they both can happen at the same time or maybe right after. I think sometimes, even in the holidays, you see family you haven't seen for a while, and you realize it is good to see you, and some of the distance between us is part of what makes our relationship work. So there's some things like that that kind of made me laugh, just like we're doing right now, as I listened to the song and thought about what it means. I just think it's a crafty song, and just a well done composition. So, and on the video, I know that video of the boat says official video. I'm a little bit skeptical of it because the source of the video doesn't relate to the band. So I'm a little skeptical of that. And then as I was checking to see if there was a video that was from the band's YouTube account, I came across this other restored fan video where they've got these wig beards and jumping around with guitars with missing strings. It's kind of outrageous. It's a little bit like DIY. I don't think it's the two artists. I think it's somebody else. So I think it might be some kind of fan video. And so that's pretty funny as well. Apparently it was lost, and that's why it's sort of listed as a restored fan video. Must have got deleted or something, and somebody brought it back to life. So there's a little bit of lore there that I don't know, but that I'm glad that I saw that version of it. So last thing I'll say is just the album art here is really good. And so, yeah, I just think this is kind of classic Pinback. I love it.
Yeah, a couple things to touch on. One, the album art is very different than the other albums. So this is off 2007's Autumn of the Seraphs. That was on, I think, Touch and Go. Yeah, very different, very, I'll say, lush, and almost looks AI generated in a way, but clearly isn't. But a cool reference. Yeah, it does. I guess we're now tuned to that these days in 2024 and 25. But back in 2007, it just looked like a cool, unique, different thing. And I think there's probably a bunch of Easter eggs in that artwork that I did not look at. But there's a ton of Easter eggs in the music itself. I'll touch on the video first, which is I thought it was fun to have a nautical theme and a nautical background, whether it's the official video or not. I agree. Anybody could put official video into the text and we're like, oh, it's seeing it on a jersey. Like this is officially licensed. But it's like, it reminds me of when we were in a record store. I must have been like 8 or 9 or 10 and we were buying records. And I pulled up like David Lee Roth, I think Eat 'Em and Smile maybe. And Mom asked me, hi, Mom, by the way. And she said, is this clean? I was like, Mom, it's David Lee Roth from Van Halen. She was like, okay. Almost like that's good enough for me. So like you throw up official video and okay, that's good enough for me. It must be the official video. Mom, you might or might not remember that. But anyway, you could say anything and convince us this is the official video. But I liked when it landed. And I kept trying to watch as you watch in the listen as people look at this next in the YouTube side, whether the sound of the waves crashing were like added on later or are they the actual audio of that ship in the sea. But it created this kind of visual for me the more I listened to the song without the visual later when I would just listen to it driving about the nautical side of the theme here. But more importantly, the lyric where he gets to, oh no, I hit rock bottom, like in the context of this really rough sea and this kind of idea of, I don't know, the metaphor to me just grew with that visual. And that's the fun part of the videos as well. I agree. This is danceable. It reminds me of danceable indie lo-fi kind of stuff that is got an upbeat hi-hat. The drum kind of drives it along with the bass and the guitar and everything that they're doing. But I thought it was great. Thought it was a fun one. We'll talk more about Autumn of the Seraphs here in a little bit with the second track, but thought it was a great pick. Brett, anything else you want to add before we spin it?
I think you said it well, that there are lots of Easter eggs in the lyrics. I mean, even from the very opening 2 lines, they're moving earth outside, the ground is shaking like no beat, which again, it's just surprising and interesting. You're not expecting them to say the ground is shaking like no beat. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know, but I have lots of like, if they're moving earth outside and the ground is shaking like no beat, then there may be like, there's something that starts to happen for my own mental sphere around Like, what is happening to this character, to me right now, that then, evolves at 1 minute and 11 seconds after, at the start of that second chorus, and then for it to drop out completely, and hitting rock bottom, this notion that, it's almost like I did see somebody's comment saying that the song is about when someone doesn't deal with a problem, that the problem will eventually take you down if you don't deal with it, which is kind of like saying, like, if you don't recognize that if you're in a paradox, you may not recognize that you're in it if you're conflating the two ideas as one. But when you can separate them out and see them, then you can, like, the gravity of what's actually going on can start to come through. And I think that's actually where there's the potential for healing and recovery and all kinds of things that can be forward moving, like the sort of growth that comes from realizing the illusion that you may have believed to be the only way. And so I think this song is encouraging me, at least, to say, where's the paradox, and how can I think about what else is true right now? So I think with that, no, I'm complete. I like that you guys dig it, and I'm excited to continue on the topic of Pinback. It's fun to get into.
For sure. You'll get to see the nautical themed video here in a second if you're on YouTube to listen to. This is off the Autumn of the Seraphs 2007 album off Touch and Go. I think this might have been their fourth full length, maybe. I'm probably getting that wrong. They have a lot mixed in there. And this is the track picked from Brett. This is Good to See.